Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 688 of Screw the Commute podcast. Today we're going to talk about a copywriting and speaking technique called stories and case studies. Very powerful, social proof, great. Let me tell you about it in a minute. All right, hope you didn't miss episode 687. In that episode, I told you about a simple program I used to take samples, or I guess you could call them preview segments or teasers of my full content. That's to wet the people's whistles so they want to consume the full version of the content. And I also put a sample in the show notes on that episode so you can actually see the video that was created from this little audio sample. That was episode 687. Anytime you want to get to a back episode, you go to screwthecommute.com/ and then the episode number. That was 687. Oh, and check out my TikTok account. I have one TikTok that's exceeding 263,000 views. And it took me about 5 minutes to create. And I think I have about 160 little short training videos on there. So it's tiktok.com/digital multimillionaire, tiktok.com/digital multimillionaire. And you can see all those short things. Please comment, like, share, save, all of it. That helps me out. And also we want to thank everybody contributing to Patreon. All the money from our Patreon goes to support our program for persons with disabilities, with scholarships. So thanks so much for that. You can go to screwthecommute.com/Patreon for that. All right, let's get to the main event. Stories and case studies. Now, they're similar, but they have one specific distinction that I'll cover shortly. See, people love stories, but let me be clear. The stories I'm talking about in this episode are not about you. They're about people you've helped. These stories show that not only can you do or get results that you're claiming in your sales process, but other people, just like your prospects, have gotten success. And this is a form of social proof. Now, there's a simple formula for creating a story. And here it is right now. Very simple. 3-word formula. Problem, intervention, results. Problem, intervention, results. So here's an example, and it has to do with my professional speaking training. Here's the problem. Joe was a pro speaker for 3 years. He spoke to audiences from about 50 to 150 people. Joe was having no luck selling his book at the back of the room. All right, that's the problem part of this story. All right, the intervention. I watched a video of Joe's presentation and noted that he waited until the very end of his speech to even mention his book. I taught Joe to do a business card drawing in the middle of his presentation and give away a book. This gave him a chance to describe the book with no sales resistance, since it was a free prize. All right, that was the intervention. Now, this is the results part of the story. Joe sold $900 worth of books on his next presentation. See, problem, intervention, results. Now, here's one of the mistakes that many people make. They hold back on the intervention part. They think that if they reveal their techniques, other people will steal their training and they won't get hired. Yeah, someone could steal your idea, but you are the one who knows all the nuances to actually make it work. For instance, with my drawing technique, there are tons of details I've honed over 1,000 times to make it work perfectly every time. I didn't mention them in the story because the story would have been an hour long, but I sold the proverbial sizzle, not the steak. You had to hire me to buy my product to get the steak. The story just showed you what could be real for someone like you if you have my product or training. Another thing you should do with stories is to have 3 different lengths of your story. Let's say you have a 5-minute powerful story. But let's say you get 3 minutes on the Today Show. This is your big break. Well, you can't possibly get in a 5-minute story on a 3-minute interview. So you'd have to leave it out. Well, I wouldn't have to leave it out because I have a short version for such an occasion. I can tell an entire story in 15 seconds if I have to. And I could extend the same story to several minutes if I'm telling it on stage, and just about any length of time in between. So have at least 3 lengths of all your important stories. Now, where do you put these stories in a sales process? Well, I say process because you could be in a sales pitching situation where you are saying your sales process, or you could be putting a sales letter on a web, either one. Now, one of the best places to put a story is right after you claim something in your sales process. So I might say in the sales letter, I can teach you how to sell at the back of the room. And then I'd have the story I just told you about Joe, where I taught him how to do it. Okay? All right, now let's talk about case studies. They have the exact same formula with one major addition. So here's the formula again, in case you forgot: problem, intervention, results. Now, with case studies, you add extreme detail, and I'm going to say extreme detail. I kind of call it a story on steroids. See, case studies are an optional element in a sales process. I personally would only include them if I was writing a sales letter when I knew the readers were highly analytical. Now, it could be engineers or something like that, or math majors. I don't know. I don't really have many products to sell to analyticals, and that's not really my main audience. So I don't use case studies personally very often, but it may be right for you. Anyway, I'm going to give you just a small sample of the same story I did about Joe, and I'll emphasize extreme detail. And here we're just going to put a little part of the problem section. Here we go. Joe Smith is a 34-year-old professional speaker who has been speaking for money for 3 years. He speaks to audiences ranging from 50 to 150 people with a mean average of 76.5 people. I laugh because I never do things like this, but it's perfect for analyticals. His back of the room sales mean average is $47 with a low of 0 and a high of $97.75. All right, see, I said, I cracked up because this is just so not me. But you need to know about these, because if your audience is analytical and you just give them rough figures, they don't believe you. See, exact numbers, ages, and sizes, and all that stuff. So you see analyticals orgasm over exact numbers, and they don't trust non-exact numbers. For instance, I could say 21% of male mayors, from cities, wear Hanes pantyhose. And that wouldn't be believable to an analytical or probably anybody else. But if I said, according to the National Institute of Female Impersonators, 21.25% of male mayors wear Hanes pantyhose, and that's more believable to an analytical. All right, you get my point, right? Extreme detail. If you don't use it for analyticals, they don't trust you. They won't buy. So your job is to decide which one of these formats, story or case study, you need. Most people are going to be just stories. Work them up. And keep in mind, you can have as many of these as you need, on different people and different topics and so forth. And then create several different lengths of them in case you're on radio or podcast or TV or on stage. And also, if you are a speaker and your time gets cut, having different lengths of the stories is really important, see? So if you really want to I mean, I always say that copywriting, this is a copywriting technique and is one of at least 31 elements that go into a sales process. That copywriting is the number one skill in my entire business career, 46 years formally, and even since I was a little kid. So check it out. I have one of the most cost-effective programs ever on this because people charge $4, $5, $6, $10,000, and my course is better. So check it out at copywriting901.com. And also, hey, if you want training on all kinds of stuff to make you, including professional speaking, including internet and digital marketing, my mentor program is the longest running, most successful, most unique ever in these fields. So check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, and we will catch you on the next episode. See you later.